Hey, welcome back. We're continuing our study, one book of the Bible at a time. We are to the book of Amos. It is another prophetic book in the Old Testament, another fairly short book. I think it's about 8 chapters long, 9 chapters in total. And here's what's interesting. There's really a lot of parallels to our lives today, and there's also a theme. Have you ever met someone who thought that they could buy their way to God? Sometimes, if we're honest, even we who know Jesus and that he paid the penalty for our sin, we can live a dual life where part of us knows we are in rebellious sin against God, even while the other half is maybe showing up and singing worship songs or doing some things at church. God warns against this, and he says, repent of your sin, and I want a pure heart more than I want acts of, religious fanfare and show. Here's who God's talking to. The wealthy people of Israel had enjoyed a long season of peace and prosperity. Sound familiar? Yes. They were quite complacent. Also sounds familiar. And in their wealthy position, they were oppressing the poor. They were even selling other Israelites into slavery, obviously a sinful thing. Soon, Israel would become conquered by Assyria, and those rich people who were selling their cousins as slaves would themselves become slaves. Now, here's God's warning to them in chapter 5 of Amos. He says this in verse 21. He says, I hate all your show and pretense, the hypocrisy of your religious festivals. So these were people who were showing up at religious gatherings. They had all the religious garb on. They checked all the external boxes, and yet they would leave, and the other 6 days of the week, they were literally selling people into slavery. And God says, essentially, verse 23, away with your noisy hymns of praise. I will not listen to the music of your harps. Verse 24, here's the key. Instead, I want to see a mighty flood of justice, an endless river of righteous living. How we live the 6 days between church matters just as much as that we go to church on the 7th day. How we live matters to God. And we know he doesn't expect us to be perfect, but as we've learned, especially here in the Old Testament, having ongoing, unrepentant sin that is part of your lifestyle will result in consequences, even here in this life, and in a degree of separation and strain in your relationship with God. So let's not be like these prosperous people. Let's instead be people who, in our prosperity, in peace, in difficulty, no matter what's going on, we turn to God with our heart 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I know you're doing that because you're here with me on Daily Hope every day. I'll see you tomorrow.